Good morning, boys and girls. How are you doing today? Everybody ready for day three? Day three. Today, the work that Mrs. Gaines and I sent you guys is a little different. We decided to send you your work for the rest of the week. So it has all your work for today, tomorrow, and Friday on it, okay? And so I want you you cannot try to do all of it today. You and your parents need to figure out which activities will be best for you to do today. It's because some of them might need your parents' help and they might not be able to help you today, and some of them don't need your parents' help. So we're hoping that you guys can kind of learn to pick which activities and assignments are best for you today, and then which ones will be better for Thursday and which ones are better on Friday. And I loved seeing everybody's seesaw. Not everybody was able to respond or didn't choose to respond or post something. So today my challenge to all of you guys is I want everyone to try to post something. You have two different assignments that are on there. You may not choose to do them today, and that's okay. But if you want to do something on Seesaw besides just post something, then you can look at either of the assignments, or I've posted another announcement and asked you a question for you to respond to, or you can just go in and post. You can send me a video of you, you can send me a picture, you can write me a note, whatever. I just want to see if everybody can try it one time to see how they like it, so that I can write back to you guys. I had a lot of fun tonight reading everybody's journal responses, and those of you that responded to the video, because I had questions when we were reading the book, and so a lot of you, or a couple of you, actually wrote me the answers to things that I asked, like if you liked me reading or not. So just know that you can use that at any time you're wanting to talk to me directly, or if you have questions and your parents aren't around, or you don't want to send an email, just go into Seesaw and post a note to me. I will get it. I might not get it right away, but I'll get it and I'll see it and I'll respond to you. So hopefully you'll feel like you guys are coming up to my desk and asking me a question instead of having to go to mom and dad, right? Okay, so as you can tell from outside, it's actually nighttime. So I am recording this on Tuesday night because I wanted to make sure I sent the link to you on Wednesday morning. I didn't want you guys to have to wait till halfway through the day for me to do it. And then tomorrow I should be able to get on schedule where I do one a day in the daylight so you guys can see better, and send it to your parents each morning on a school day. That made me think of something else, and I have forgotten. Oh, I know what it is. So I was thinking you can watch this video anytime you want, but what you might want to do is start watching the video in the morning, because as you saw, I just gave you a little tips and pointers for how the day is going to go. But then you might want to stop it when I start doing the read aloud, and then at the end of the day, when you have finished whatever work it is you're going to do, whether that's at 11 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or whenever it is you choose to do the work, when you finish, maybe turn on the video and watch me do the read aloud. Maybe that'll be a nice way to kind of end the day. Those were our favorite days at school, when we finished doing our reading aloud, right? So maybe that would be a fun way for you to finish your day of work at school. Let me see, was there something else? I don't think so. If I think of it, I'll stop in the middle of me reading, okay? So we got to chapter 12 earlier, and it is called The Den of Thieves. So here we go. Peter and Sir Toad continued eastward under the giant moon, trying their best to forget the mortal screams of old scabs. The faint breeze, which had long since dried their clothes, pushed softly against their faces. The terrain of the just deserts was growing hillier, making it more difficult to maintain a straight line. Being from a port town, Peter knew how to navigate by the stars. The only problem was that he could not see them. More than once, Sir Toad had steered them off course by misunderstanding the boys' directions. "No," Peter said, realizing they had veered south once again. The pole star is the big one. Well, they all look bloody small, if you ask me. How am I supposed to tell the one from the other? The two argued about this and many other things until they finally agreed to put their navigating frustrations aside and to do some thinking about the riddle. Let's assume that the ravens are working for the king, said Peter, who had since memorized the words. So that's settled then. The king is evil? The boy nodded. If the ravens work for him, then he's definitely evil. Also, Captain Amos called Old Scabs a traitor. We have to figure out why. Perhaps he and the other prisoners tried to stop the evil king. But how? What was their crime? Sir Toad considered this question. The note mentions kings aplenty. Do you think there could have been more than one? Perhaps a good king and a bad one are at war? It could be. And maybe it's the good king who's written this note and needs us to rescue him? Or perhaps the bad king wrote it, Sir Toad said. Or someone else altogether. Ugh, it's all so confusing, Peter grumbled. If only we knew how the stupid riddle ended. I'm sure that last bit is the key to this whole puzzle. By this point, you have probably guessed, like the ravens, what the last words of the notes were. For anyone familiar with rhyming verse, I think they're getting ready to tell us what the last word is. Figuring that out would be a simple matter of compiling a list of potential rhymes with relief and trying out all the words to see what makes the most sense. Sadly, because Peter was too busy being a thief instead of a schoolboy, he was still having trouble figuring out this vital clue. What did y'all pick up on that? Whatever the answer, I'm sure it's right under our noses, Sir Toad said. But between my whiskers and your blindness, we'll have a rough time spotting it. Peter didn't share Sir Toad's amusement. At least I have an excuse, he muttered. Ever since their ordeal at Kettle Rock, he had found himself growing more and more irritated by the knight's constant foolery. They had witnessed a grisly murder, and yet Sir Toad continued to treat everything like some kind of game. They continued in silence until reaching a series of escalating ridges, at which point Peter stopped. There's a campfire down there, behind that second hill, he said, sensing the change in the temperature. Someone's just put it out. Sir Toad had learned better than to argue with his friend's uncanny senses. He stared into the darkness, wondering what awaited them. Peter, he said nervously, you know we don't have to do this. Yes, I do, the boy replied, wishing he still had his fishhook. Stay close. A few minutes later, they were standing over a wrecked boat named the Snark Hunter. Beside it were the remnants of a bonfire where someone had been roasting centipedes. It looks like a campsite, Sir Toad whispered, only it's deserted. Or rather, it looked deserted. Peter listened to the cool air. There were definitely heartbeats nearby. The boy raised his open hands and cleared his throat. Blinded and binded in whitest yarn, here comes Peter Nimble, who means no harm. There was a brief pause. Then came the sound of several men pulling themselves out of the sand where they had been hiding. Peter heard 5 in all. Each smelled quite a bit like Old Scabs and probably looked no better. Ugh, we thought you were marauders, one of them explained, embarrassed. Ugh, or Officer Trolley, another said. Or ravens, spoke a third. And at this final thought, each of them shuddered. We're fellow prisoners, Peter said, and we're looking to get to the raven's nest. The old men responded with concerned chuckles. I'm afraid you got it backwards, Sonny, a stout one named Patch said. You're trying to keep away from the nest. Far as possible, in fact. Here, sit down and have yourself some dust maggot. Maybe that'll clear your head. The old men all shuffled closer, urging Peter and Sir Toad to join them around the fire, which they relit. The two newcomers sat down, realizing just how hungry the previous day had left them. Over dinner, the prisoners introduced themselves as Patch, Clipper, Cough, Bogey, and Twiddlesticks. Let's read those names again. Patch, Clipper, Cough, Bogey, and Twiddlesticks. Those are all burgle trades, Peter said upon hearing their names, just like Old Scabs. Scabbing, in case you are not aware, is the art of swapping goods. For example, if you were interested in stealing a ruby ring off of somebody's finger, you would take the ring and leave a bit of twine tied round a pebble so that the victim wouldn't notice that their precious jewelry had gone missing until they actually looked at their finger. That is exactly what poor old Scabs had tried doing when he replaced the lemon from Peter's bag with a rock. So that's called scabbing. Of course, chum, the one named Twiddlestick said. We're all called after our thieving specialties, just like you, Peter Nimble. Who says I'm a thief? The boy protested. The one named Bogey leaned close. Why, when you've been at it as long as us, you get to feel for it, huh? And from what I spy, I'd say you was among the very best, Clipper added. The other men muttered in agreement, saying things like, ooh, those fingers, and slinks like a shadow. Peter blushed, remembering what Professor Cake had said at the beginning of their journey about him being a great thief. Thanks, I guess. While enjoying their grubs, Peter and Sir Toad listened to the old men share stories about life in the just deserts. The men explained how the ravens slept heavy at night and let the prisoners roam free, provided they remained completely hidden during the day. Sir Toad treated them to a harrowing retelling of what had happened to poor old Scabs, and how he was now buried at the foot of Kettle Rock. Oh, that's a shame, Clipper tissed. He had a right nice tooth, he did. I'd half a mind to visit the grave, only it's too dangerous, seeing as how the ravens is always flapping about there. So you won't go near Kettle Rock? Peter said. Even at night? Not a chance, the thief named Bogey said. I ain't ventured by there in 8 years, not since my first run-in with a pair of guard birds. He raised his hand, showing off his 3 missing fingers. Only reason Scabs went anywheres near that place is on account of him being touched in the head. Means they didn't think he was quite right. If you don't go to Kettle Rock, how do you find water? The old men all smacked their mouths in wistful silence. Oh, you get used to it, Cough said, wheezing. This was just the opportunity Peter had hoped for. Maybe I can help you with that, he said to the men. My friend and I come here because we need your help. We have to get something back that the ravens stole from us. Patch spat bitterly into the sand. Of course they stole from you, Sonny. That's what they do, is steals from us till we got nothing left. Why, everything we ever had in the world is locked up in that nest of theirs. The tallest of the group, Twiddlestick, slid close to Peter. He placed a long, spindly arm on the boy's shoulder. Don't mean to let you down, chum, but it's not likely we're going to cross those birdies again. We're lucky they let us live at all. If there's one law in the just deserts, Clipper added, it's that you be good and grateful that the ravens is so soft on us. They have good cause to want us dead. A few of the others groaned at this sentiment. But what did you do to make them hate you all so much? Sir Toad said. I'm sure it's a story worth hearing. The men lowered their heads, hemming awkwardly. Only Clipper answered, muttering something about how awful bad they had behaved. Why, the sound of those cries shivers me right to the day, he said. Peter felt a flash of annoyance at Sir Toad's changing the topic of conversation. Who cared what these old men had done? What mattered was the mission. He rose, returning to his subject. My companion and I are going with or without you. However, if you agree to help us, I can give you something in return. He pulled the rumbling wineskin out of his bag. Clear, fresh rainwater. He uncorked the end and began to pour the bottle's contents out onto the sand. Seeing this, the prisoners dropped to the ground, took handfuls of mud into their mouth, and sucked the grains dry, moaning with relief. Peter replaced the cork, cutting off their supply. This skin contains a bit of magic inside that can give you enough water for 10 lifetimes. If you help us, it's yours. The prisoners looked from one to another, their mouths still full of sand. Ugh, I would hate that. Peter dangled the prize before them, letting them hear the rumbling rain cloud trapped inside. The 5 men watched the wondrous wineskin, their bodies swaying back and forth so slightly. Twiddlestick spat the sand from his mouth and stood up. Right, chum. What'd you have in mind? Peter knew that the key to succeeding with a major burglary was preparation. If they were to have any hope of getting the fantastic eyes back, he would need as much information as possible. "First, I need to know about this nest," he said to them. "It's like this," Twiddlesticks explained. "The nest is big, real big. It sticks out of the sand like a giant's thimble. Guard birds are everywhere, especially in daytime when they're all flapping about." Peter nodded. "So we need to hit them before sunrise, while they're still asleep. That way we will only have to deal with a few guards and not a whole army." He turned to the old man named Patch. "I'm going to need a diversion. What materials have you got with you?" "Nothing much. Maybe a few scraps of sail and whatnot." Peter scowled, thinking, "You'll have to pull more things together for this job. Can you fashion an axe?" The thief responded with a delighted cackle. "I thinks I sees what you're up to, sonny. I'll get right on it. Twiddlesticks, you'll do locks with me." "Of course, chum," he said, cracking his knuckles. "Bogey, we're going to need you to go in there and learn the layout first. Just find out where the locks are and how many guards are stationed at what post." The thief named Bogey sighed. "I was afraid of that. It's only I'm out of practice, something awful." "I'm sure it's been a long time," Peter said, "but some things you never forget. Meet us back here in an hour." Right. Bogey picked himself up and marched toward the horizon. Sir Toad almost swallowed his tongue as he watched the prisoner walk away. With each step, Bogey's figure blended into the surroundings until there was nothing left. "Why, he's disappeared completely." Only when the knight squinted his eyes and looked in the exact right place could he make out footprints forming in the sand. "Is that a thieving magic?" "No, just a knack," Peter said. Unable to see for himself, the boy was glad to hear that Bogey was so good at his trade. It seemed every thief here possessed skills beyond anything he had encountered back home, skills that nearly rivaled his own. He just hoped that it would be enough. "Cough," he said, returning to the plan. "I'll need you to distract the guards when we get there. Think you can pull them away?" "Psst, easy peasy," Cough said, already collecting a supply of good pebbles for his pouch. Peter moved to the last of them. "And that brings us to you, Clipper. I need you waiting at the Cough to jump out and—" "No, sir," the thief interrupted. "I know what you're going to ask of me, and I won't do it." "We need you," Peter persisted. "Without you to clip, the guards will be able to alert the whole flock, and then we're good as dead." "You can use my bag." "I said no. I'm not doing it again." By now the old man was choking back dry sobs. "I agreed to help nick the joint, but I won't clip nobody. It's too much." He backed away from the group. "Be reasonable, chum," Twiddlesticks said, a note of menace in his voice. "You know the boy's plan won't bloody work without a clipper. Besides, it's not like you haven't done it before." Peter folded his arms. "I need a clipper, and if I don't get one, the deal is off. No wineskin." "I don't know what a clipper is. Do you know what a clipper is?" "He wants to use the sack. What could that be?" But the guy he really doesn't want to do it again. I don't know. We'll have to see. "Wineskin, psh!" Clipper kicked the sand. "This whole business stinks something awful. I don't want no part of it. Never again. I swore it." He stepped close to Peter, whispering, "You watch yourself, little one. There ain't no shelter in a den of thieves." This was a well-known thieving proverb, but the boy hadn't the slightest idea how it applied to the situation. Before he could respond, the old man turned heel and ran for the hills. Peter listened to him stagger over the dunes, moaning, "Never again." "What was that about?" the boy said, turning back to the rest of the group. "Ignore him," Twiddlesticks said. "He's a coward with a conscience." At this, the other men chuckled. "You still got us. Bogey can clip well enough. He's not as fast, but he can tie a knot with the best of them." "So clippers have to tie knots with a bag." Peter sighed. It wasn't ideal, but it would work. "So it's settled. We meet back here in an hour and head for the nest." "Right." The men sprang from their seats and started off in different directions. Peter and Sir Toad now sat alone before the warm fire. "I hope this works," the boy said, showing uncertainty for the first time. "These men are great thieves, but I'm not sure they can be trusted. He patted the rumbling wineskin in his bag just to double check that it was still there. Peter, Sir Toad cleared his throat. Have you got any job for me? The boy had been afraid he would ask this. Not tonight. I'm going to need you to just stay close. But these men are experts. You're going to have to trust me. He offered a half-hearted smile. Don't worry, though. I'm sure your gifts will be of use soon enough. Let me see how much more we have. Oh, we just got a couple pages. We'll finish the chapter. The thieves returned within the hour, each one practically giddy with anticipation. Twiddlesticks had rubbed his finger joints with some sort of foul-smelling worm extract that left them shining and slick. He was now talking sweetly to each of his long fingers, calling them his lovelies. Bogey had come back early and was already drawing a map of the nest layout in the sand for the others. Cough had his pouch crammed full of smooth, round pebbles, perfect for throwing. When Patch came around, the group nearly had a heart attack. He was wearing what, from a distance, looked exactly like a ragged military uniform. The warden! Sir Toad gasped as the axe-wielding figure lumbered over the hill. The prisoners instantly jumped to their feet and ran for the dunes. Peter waved his arms, calling them back. It's just Patch. I can smell him. The others hesitated for a moment. They looked behind them to see the warden on the sand doubled over with laughter. I got you, sorry lot. He shook so hard his wig slipped off, revealing Patch's ruddy face. Got you good, I did. The thieves tiptoed closer until they were all huddled around him. The man had somehow dyed his rags to look the spit and image of Officer Trolley. The axe that had been so afraid of was just a few scraps of splintered wood. Well, I'll be snickered, Twiddlesticks said. It's really you. Told you I was good. Patch twirled his wig on one finger. None of you lot believed me before when I says I was the best Patch there ever was. Should have seen your ruddy faces when I come over that hill, though. Showed you good, I did. He launched his new fits of laughter. Excellent, Peter said, nodding. If he fooled all of you, he'll definitely fool the ravens. The group took off for the eastern horizon shortly after midnight. In order to keep pace, Peter suggested that Sir Toad ride in his bag. This might be a good place for you to stay during the mission, he said in an effort to spare the knight's feelings. If I'm in trouble, you can spring out and surprise whoever's attacking. Sir Toad was beginning to feel a little left out. The professor gave me one job, Peter, to be your eyes. How can I do that from the bottom of a bag? Peter ignored the question and kept walking with the thieves. The moon lit their way as they dashed over cool, sandy hills. Peter heard muffled heartbeats. They encountered no one. Where are all the other prisoners? He finally asked Twiddlesticks. The old thief hemmed. Oh, they're around, chum. Just shy is all. The group reached the nest about an hour before dawn. Peter ducked behind the closet hill and let Sir Toad out of his bag for a breath of fresh air. What's it look like? He asked his companion. Sir Toad peeked over the crest. Oh, good heavens! It's gigantic! For once, he was not exaggerating. The nest that stood before them was at least 100 feet high. So think about, like a normal ceiling is 8 to 10 feet. So think like 10 stories high. That's tall. The entire thing was made from scraps of wrecked boats. It was indeed shaped a bit like a massive thimble, only more narrow. Rising up from its base were 4 turrets, each guarded by ravens, flying night watch. Sir Toad huddled close to his friend. Peter, are you sure about this plan? We don't know the whole story behind this place. He cast a nervous glance at the 4 prisoners creeping over the dunes. And these men are the only chance we have, Peter said. Besides, without them, I can't get back the fantastic eyes and finish my mission. Sir Toad fell silent for a moment. I thought it was our mission, he murmured softly. Peter and the thieves assembled behind a dune. Poor Sir Toad. That makes me sad. Behind a dune facing the rear wall. Bogey filled them in with a few more details. Now, I seen 3 guard birds at each side. That's 6 in all. There's a couple more flappers at each high turret and maybe the old patrol bird inside. or maybe the odd, not old, odd patrol bird inside. The main barracks is where the birds is sleeping. You don't want to linger there. You should find a staircase that'll take you straight to the toppermost level. That's where they hides the treasure. Now, there's locks aplenty on that door, so Twiddlesticks and Sunny has got their work cut out for them. Think you can handle it, chum? Twiddlesticks asked, nudging Peter. The boy grinned, cracking his knuckles. Just try and keep up. Despite the unpleasant company, he was beginning to enjoy being in his element. Here was a whole band of adults that admired and respected his abilities. He helped Sir Toad into his satchel and slung it over one shoulder. Are we ready? Of course, the others replied. By now you have witnessed how truly gifted Peter is, despite his handicap. You have heard him referred to as a master thief by multiple authorities, and you have seen him work his way out of numerous dangerous situations. You may be thinking that his blindness is no handicap at all, and that it somehow gives him an advantage over the average seeing person. Some of you may even be thinking to yourself, boy, I wish I was blind like the great Peter Nimble. If you are thinking that, stop right now. Because whatever benefits you may believe that blindness carries with it, you must understand that there are just as many disadvantages. For example, if you were to give an order to a bunch of thieving prisoners and they answered, of course, while smiling to one another and rubbing their hands, you would see this and know that they were planning something terrible, which was exactly the case here. Peter Nimble, however, could not see this, and therefore was not alerted to any immediate danger. Normally, Sir Toad would spot this sort of thing, but since he was confined to the bag, the shifting eyes, rubbing hands, and nasty smiles went undetected. Good, the boy said, totally oblivious. Let's get to it. And with that, Peter, Sir Toad, and 4 untrustworthy thieves crept toward the nest. And that's the end of the chapter. So I'm going to show you a picture because the next chapter shows you a picture of the nest. So I'll show you what it looks like. Interesting, right? Okay, so I think I figured out the last word of the riddle while we were reading because it gave us a hint. If you think you know what it is, write me back on Seesaw and tell me. Or you can comment to the YouTube video and tell me what you think. But I think I have an idea. So, all right, guys, have a good day. Have a good night tomorrow night. And then I'll talk to you again, okay?